debt repaid in unusual ways. It is said that Mr. Li Zhoming was a generous and charitable individual. A fellow villager, a laborer, lived in the household of Mr. Li. This person had been idle and unable to engage in agricultural work since childhood, resulting in extreme poverty. Nevertheless, he possessed some minor skills and often performed odd jobs for the Li family, receiving substantial compensation each time. Sometimes, when he couldn't afford breakfast, he would beg for alms from Mr. Li, who would provide him with 1.5 measures of grain. One day, he approached Mr. Li and said, "I'm constantly benefiting from your generous assistance, which keeps my family of 3 or 4 from starving. However, this can't continue indefinitely. May I ask you to lend me a bushel of mung beans as capital for trading?" Mr. Li was pleased and promptly ordered his household to give him the requested amount. The man took the mung beans and disappeared, only for more than a year to pass without repayment. When asked, he confessed that the mung bean money had long been spent. Mr. Li, pitying his poverty, left the matter aside and didn't press for repayment. Subsequently, Mr. Li went to a Buddhist temple to study. After more than 3 years had elapsed, he suddenly dreamed that the man came to him, saying, "I've come today to repay the mung bean money I owe you." Mr. Li comforted him, saying, "If I were to demand repayment from you, then how could we reconcile all the things that we've borrowed or lent on ordinary days?" The man sadly responded, "Indeed, you are right. However, when someone does something for another, even if they receive a fortune, it may not require repayment. But if one receives assistance without reason, they should not even overlook a measure and a half of grain, let alone more." Having said this, he left. Mr. Li was left even more puzzled. Shortly afterward, his household reported to Mr. Li, "Last night, the mother donkey gave birth to a large foal." Suddenly, Mr. Li understood and said, "Could it be that the foal is that man?" A few days later, when Mr. Li returned home, he saw the foal and playfully called out the man's name. The foal came running, as though recognizing its name. From then on, the foal was called by the man's name. Mr. Li rode the foal to Qingzhou. The imperial supervisor of the mansion of the Duke of Heng saw it and greatly admired the foal, expressing a willingness to buy it for a high price. However, the price had not been agreed upon. Coincidentally, Mr. Li encountered an urgent matter at home that could not wait, so he returned. Another year passed, and while the foal and a male horse were eating together, the horse bit the foal's leg, breaking its shin bone. The injury was untreatable. A cattle doctor visited Mr. Li's house, saw the situation, and proposed, "Please entrust the foal to me. I'll carefully treat and care for it each day. It will take some time. If by chance I manage to heal it, we will split the money from its sale evenly." Mr. Li agreed to his proposal. After a few months, the cattle doctor sold the foal for 1,800 coins and gave half of the money to Mr. Li. Upon receiving this money, Mr. Li suddenly realized that the amount matched precisely the price of the mung beans the man had borrowed. Debts accrued in the mortal world are repaid after traversing the underworld. This story is indeed a compelling lesson in kindness.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.